And my background was in communications and kind of event management and planning other people's visions. And, even just when Dave was designing on his own, I would be like over his shoulder, like, well, have you thought about that? Have you thought about this? Or I don't think that's saying what you think it should say. And we were like, wait, together we actually make a really good team here. We could just do this ourselves.
Today's episode of The Pro Guide is brought to you by Small Pond Productions, the producers of this podcast. If you're looking to boost your brand's voice with professional end-to-end podcast production, whether it's an interview show or telling stories with audio, we walk you through every step of the process to make you sound great. Head to our website and download the free Podcasting Made Simple guide. 8 critical things you need to know before launching your brand's podcast. It's all available at smallpond.productions. Well, welcome everybody to this episode of The Pro Guide. Today, I'm so excited to be able to have David and Jennifer Masters of the David Masters Group with us. They're a husband and wife team that believe that branding is more than just a service that they provide. It's like their passion. And they offer brand strategy, visual identity development, messaging strategy, and brand activation services for companies, and it's just such a cool concept that really becomes, it feels like a ball of mystery until you start talking about and finding more about it and realize that this is something that on some levels is a science, although there's a lot of magic to it. So I thought it'd be great to talk to them both, and thank you both for joining us, David and Jennifer.
Yeah, thank you, Andrew.
Honored to have you both. It's a really cool website, and it's amazing to get to see the work that you guys have done, and just I think the coherence that shows up in a brand as after you've kind of given them the language of their branding identity to be able to talk with. But David, I thought maybe we'd start in your direction. I heard a past interview. You mentioned the idea that branding is almost a promise. Do you mind just kind of unpacking that idea that branding is a promise? What does that mean when you say that? A brand is something that it's a commitment that somebody makes.
Yeah, no, I can definitely unpack that a little bit. So one thing that we said when we started this business and both of us agreed upon is that we didn't want to market or offer services. We didn't want to brand companies or individuals that were not sincere, were not altruistic about who they were. I think there are a ton of marketing agencies out there and groups out there that will happily take your money and I believe put you up there, tell you a story or tell your audience a story that that they think will resonate with them and try to increase leads and do all of those things, and that's good and fine. But from the very beginning, when we started this, we said we want to tell the truth. And we want to be able to tell the truth that captures people's hearts and captures their emotions and their minds. And we started thinking about this idea of branding being a promise, being something that you say that you are. I know I mentioned this to Ryan on the podcast you listened to, but when I was a kid, my dad taught me that the meaning of that word, integrity. And he said, it's doing what you say and saying what you do and making sure that they're congruent. And so when we work with brands, we think of it like, you have a great story. We don't need to make that up for you. We just need to present it in a way that's authentic to the people that you want to communicate with, that pulls at their heartstrings. And then, for instance, like a logo, we like to say it's like a signature that you put on a piece of paper, right? Like, this is my promise. This is who we say that we are. We're not making this stuff up. And so we're going to sign our name on that piece of paper, and there's our visual identity to back it up. And so it becomes an authenticator. You know what I mean?
I do. Yeah, it's a really good way of stating. And I think some of that comes from this mindset, this lens that you're looking at the world through, to say that, hey, the raw material at least is already there. It's there. And maybe we're, moving some stuff out of the way, but we're uncovering something that we believe is there. I mentioned Jennifer in one of the conversations I had with David earlier is that if I were to distill my life down to like a phrase, the phrase that I've always kind of come up with is amplifying messages that matter. I don't know necessarily what what that superpower is, but I have the ability to kind of just turn the volume level up on something that is there that's an essential message to be able to kind of, and the vehicle changes from time to time. I'd love to know, Jennifer, what you think about how did both of you land on when you're creating the David Masters Group? Like, this is something that I feel like both of us really want to spend at least a slice of our life, a slice of our career doing together.
Yeah, it definitely was a journey, I think, getting to where we are now. I'm not sure if you've mentioned before, but he had previously owned an agency with some partners, had gained quite a bit of marketing and branding experience working just under other companies. And through the course of, COVID and all these crazy things, looking at our lives and realizing this is something that you are very gifted in. And my background was in communications and kind of event management and planning other people's visions. And, even just when Dave was designing on his own, I would be like over his shoulder, like, well, have you thought about that? Have you thought about this? Or I don't think that's saying what you think it should say. And we were like, wait, together we actually make a really good team here. We could just do this ourselves. And I think since then, it's been a bit of a journey of just navigating our skill sets and how those can streamline together. Obviously, being married and having a family, we already have to coexist our lives in every which way. So adding one more element to that was both easy and difficult all at the same time. And I think we've gotten into a really sweet rhythm right now in the season of life that we're in to be able to just take a passion for businesses and companies that are saying and doing things that matter and helping them articulate that to the people that they need to articulate it to.
There's so many directions I want to take that because it's the ADD part of it. So on one level, there's the slice of, this kind of, when you look at your portfolio of work on the website, like it's very obvious that whatever magical cocktail of skill sets that you both have kind of joined together in the way that you've joined it is something greater than the sum of the parts shows up. And so that's really, really cool to see. But on the other side of it, I keep thinking about those that maybe look at branding and brand strategy as this kind of amorphous blob of magic. Like, okay, either you've got the gift or you don't. And conversations I've heard with David and actually had with David is there might be a slice of that. There might be a slice of like talent there, but there's also some more clinical behaviors in nature that you can rely on to get some more predictable results. What sorts of, and this is open for either of you to answer, but what sorts of actions do you both start to take when you say, okay, there's somebody that wants to engage with our services, and we need to kind of start doing that work of uncovering what this brand really is all about? Are there some reliable first steps that you end up taking, or is it kind of more, let's listen to hear what shows up from them before we start to say, okay, this is where we think you need to head?
I think listening is usually the number one. I think it starts with usually a phone call and then a meeting and then just these conversations, and to some extent being a bit of a fly on the wall. I think when you get a group of people together to represent their organization and they start talking, we start hearing a lot of consistency, and we have the benefit of being one step away from it. So we're not as close. Anyone internal is going to have a lot of emotions and bias toward what they think or what they feel should be. And when we're a little bit outside of that, we can pick stuff up really easily that they may not think of. And then from there, I think we take it down more of a, I guess clinical is the word you use, pathway to start kind of piecing it together a little bit.
Yeah, it's the process. I love, you're so right. I think traditionally, I'm thinking even in our marriage, one thing that I have for sure had to learn over time, and you being the communications person had given me the proverbial slap on the hand, is talking before I think about what I'm saying. I don't know if anyone else can relate to that up there. So actually,
words are coming out.
We have 7 maxims. When we started this business, we wrote down these 7 things that we wanted to live by, and one of them is actually, being slow to speak and quick to listen, and just really trying to live by that. Because if you really spend the time getting to know somebody and treat stop treating your clients as a number and as some sort of way for you to the means to get to your end, and start treating them as an end in themselves, as a person, as a company, because they care about what they do, and so should you. It becomes more of almost a friendship, I want to say. And when you really get to know somebody in an intimate way as a friend, it becomes a whole lot easier to be able to broadcast their message in the world.
Okay.
You know, if we can understand who they are from this authentic position and who their audience says that they are, and to help bring that clarity together, it's a really harmonious thing. And if you try to force that, if you try to do it by just going in there as a blunt object and telling them what they need to be, or what their audience says they must be, then I think that you're missing out on some treasure for sure.
It seems like there could be, Jennifer, you mentioned the fly on the wall mentality. Like there's so much more alignment that happens when you're not just listening to them tell you their needs in the moment, but also you hear kind of what shows up in the culture of the company, and you're kind of listening at that level as well, where it's like, yeah, you're telling me all this, but at the same time, we're hearing this happening over here too. And it is another level of conversation to be living for, or to be listening to. I'm curious about, on some level, is this really giving them a language or a level of distinction to be able to kind of further communicate who it is that they are? And it's got to be not scary, because you've done the legwork and you've got agreement along the way and all the steps and processes, but to have that final package or that final deliverable and to say, like, here's who we see you as being, and for them to be like nodding their heads saying, oh my gosh, like you've communicated us on some ways even more, better, more articulately than we've communicated ourselves. Talk to me about that feeling, that dynamic. What shows up there for you in that moment?
We actually had almost that exact experience with a client last year or the year before. They went into it thinking they kind of had an idea of what they were asking us to produce for them, and who they saw themselves as, and how they saw themselves connecting to their audience. We immediately started hearing a lot of like bigger things than what they thought.
See.
And when we took it back and we delved into it and we really started piecing it together, what we brought them in presentation, it took them back quite a bit, to the point where they had to sit on it and think, wow, you see us as so much more than we see ourselves. Is this who we, like, can we be what you see that we are?
Huh.
And it was scary but exciting, because it was one of the first times I think we were like, wow, we really nailed who they really are beyond what they thought. And when they finally sat with it and they were like, this is who we are, this is who we've always wanted to be and didn't even know. And it changed the trajectory of how they marketed themselves from that point forward.
What was it that they said in the meeting? It was for college, and they said this will change our admission standards.
Wow.
Yeah.
And when we heard that, we're like, wow, that's really meaningful. And I guess it has. I guess it's really helped them a lot, which is so awesome. It's the clarity.
It is.
It's such a cool thing to see people's eyes light up, and to be able to say, like, the mirror was frosted or broken before, but now the mirror is made whole, and we can see ourselves clearly. That's so cool.
And it feels like a very great responsibility to hold that for someone. And I think we take that very seriously with every client we work with. They're trusting us to communicate who they are, and we really need to take that seriously, and we do. So it's so exciting when we're able to get to the end and just see the excitement for them to move forward with, what we've uncovered about who they always were. We're not rewriting the book. We're just showing them what it always said.
Yeah. And that's why those instances where this is why it's so good that we're a team. It's why it's so good that we're a team. I literally was we were building a brand ladder in the studio. I had all these words laid out. She comes out to the studio and she looks at it for like 2 minutes and she's like, that word is wrong. She changed one word and like mic dropped on me, walked away. And I was like, you're just That was like
It's
2 months of work, and you both ruined my ego. And it's like, we're not doing that.
it's multi-level,
And-
like frustrating on one level, but on the other level, it's like, yeah, that's what we needed. Thank you, I guess, for the face punch. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so weird. Like, I feel like it's so good having that complementary, relationship in the studio, and you really can set aside, like, I have this technical skill, or I know how to do this, or I went to school for this. It doesn't really matter in our world. It more just becomes what solution is going to be the best for the client, and what solution in that moment are we both able to pour into and get behind and believe, and it's going to really help.
Yeah.
That's really refreshing to hear. I think when it depends on what, slice of the internet bubble that you're used to seeing, but for all the times that I've bumped up against kind of the hustle, fake it till you make it culture, where it's talking about putting on airs or trying to show a certain slice of yourself in this fragmented way, to the world in order to put on, and some of it I think is good intentions. It's in the name of, putting your best foot forward or having people see you a certain way. However, I sometimes feel like if you haven't done the internal alignment work of saying, who am I really, and what am I really, trying to share authentically with the rest of the world, then it can really have an off-putting response, to it might not be putting out what you feel like it should be putting out. So talk to me about the other side of this, of working as a husband and wife team. I mean, when you talk about work-life integration, I know that really does go both ways. So in the sense that there really is a sense in that businesses are counting on us to be at our best relationally, because that sort of magic that we promise to them doesn't show up when we're, when things are misfiring and there's not necessarily harmony that's happening there. But when it is, it's like that is the sum is greater than the parts. So talk to me about that dynamic and how that kind of manifests in business. It's really open-ended, so take it anywhere you want.
Yeah, I want to share before because there's so much here. The first thing I would say, and I think you would probably agree, is we are not perfect at it.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, it's the word integrated, that was the very first word we wrote on a piece of paper, and we said, this is the life we want to live, and we felt at peace about that and walked it out. But it doesn't come without good days and bad days. And in our current world, where everything in a lot of ways is dictated by feelings, it becomes really easy to go, I don't feel like doing this today, or I'm having a good day, or I'm having a bad day, or the sky is cloudy, or my kids are screaming in the background when I'm on a call, or it really kind of supersedes all that. And so I would say, we strive to live integrated, but let's start with that.
Okay.
We strive.
The drive. It's always a practice, not a perfect.
Yeah.
I guess it was like 3 years ago, 4 years ago. And we have 3 kids, and our oldest at the time was in kindergarten. So 2 littles underneath that, which, is a lot in and of itself when we decided to do this.
Yeah.
And integrated was our word. We're going to integrate, and that was the time we were like, we're going to also homeschool, and we're going to do both. And, with one school-age child, that was fairly doable for a while. And we were able to kind of create a balance where, we'd trade off, and I would come out and do some stuff, and he would go with the kids, and we would, set them up, and we would both work, and it worked out pretty well. As our kids got older, and as school got more demanding, and as they got involved in every single possible activity they could,
As one does.
we were juggling so many schedules. We were still trying to force that same, okay, we're going to trade off. Okay, we're going to work together. And it was, for me, very overwhelming, because I'm going from trying to teach algebra to my almost 10-year-old to having to come out and suddenly be editing and writing. And my brain just was like, I cannot do this right now.
Yes.
And so we had to kind of wrestle through a lot of frustrating moments of, well, I need you to help, and I can't help, and this isn't really working right now. And at some point I said, I'm going to have more I'm going to have a little bit more of my time on the school stuff at the moment. And we're going to have to figure out what that looks like. And that's sort of the season we're in now, where my role is less in the studio every single day, working together, trading off, and a lot more of when you get to a place where we need some like dialogue, let me come in and make sure you're not dropping it on me because it needs to be done tomorrow and I need to do it right now, because that's just not going to work.
I think that, you know what is interesting about that too? I think so often we equate value to time because we've been trained to do that. And if we just reduce it down to, you know, like you're in here a lot, but I mean, if it was like, we have to be 50-50 all the time, and I think if we reduce it down to that, that would be a really poor image to be able to kind of really point to the value that we each bring to the equation. And because, to be honest with you, she's way smarter than me, and she brings a whole lot more than I do, but doesn't have to do it all the time. She can come out here, give me those nuggets and point our clients to something better and help kind of realign the entire train. And so, you know, we also both know there's seasons, right? There are seasons where I also volunteered to coach my son's flag football team last year. Never done that in my life. When I was like, that's what I should do. I should start writing plays in the evening on napkins to try to. But there's seasons where you're each really busy with your own things, and then you're at the same time needing to keep this thing that we're building going forward. And
I think the other thing too is understanding what integrated means and what that looks like, because what it looked like to us early on is different than what it might look like today. And we really tried to maintain, you know, standard work hours, and this is work time. And we were for a while treating this like a job and not allowing integration.
Sorry.
And so, you know, when something happens and there's an opportunity for maybe dad to take the girls to dance and, you know, be a part of the things that a working dad who's got to go to an office doesn't have the opportunity to do, or, you know, stop and play Legos in the middle of the day for an hour, toss the football around outside. We realized that's what we were missing in trying to maintain a rigid work schedule. At the end of the day, the work gets done, and maybe we're working in bed in the evenings and the kids go to bed because we took some time out of the day to do something as a family. That's what's worth it. And I think allowing that to be okay was part of our journey to get to where we are now, where there are days where the kids understand, you know what, we have clients that are expecting, and that's part of being responsible, and they're learning that and knowing that it's not all fun and games all the time. But there are times where it's okay to say, you know what, I don't need to get that done by today, so I'm going to take a break and I'm going to go spend time as a family, and then I'll make sure that's done with excellence before it needs to be.
And, you know, to that end, too, to riff off you there, creativity does not happen all the time 9 to 5. You know this. There are nights where we're like laying, you know, on the couch or sitting there having a glass of wine, and all of a sudden her or myself are like, I have an idea. Like, the idea has just come, and we're like, oh, we better go write that idea down, or we better go like make sure we note that for tomorrow. And the clients are going to get our best mind all the time in that way, right? The creativity will be at its best because we're doing it in a natural way.
I love what I hear too, just as a fly on the wall of both of your conversation kind of going back and forth too, is this unspoken, but you see it as you're talking to this dynamic of honor between the both of you as well. I think that speaks to a lot of unquantifiable value for a company that's coming in saying, hey, we want to steward our brand. And there's this culture of sacrifice, not doormat sacrifice, like, you know, hey, we're honoring each other. We're lifting up the best that's both about each other in the way that, you know, the best of both of us show up. And I think that deference that is there is something that is hard to manufacture. It's hard to just kind of create that out of thin air. I don't think it can be done. So that kudos, because that doesn't come overnight. That doesn't come for free. And it's something that I think, well, you both mentioned, you know, it's you work on it, you know, you work on it over time. And there's this theme of grace that shows up throughout the entire relationship as well, where it's like, hey, we didn't get it perfect today, but we got tomorrow. We'll keep going. Love it. For the person that isn't working at that larger firm, or maybe they don't have, the massive, the marketing budget that they'd love to invest in. But they do want to know more about how do I translate what I'm feeling as my brand's identity into something that's visual or audible or kind of communicating that essence of who I am to the world. Do you have any like great first steps that you would recommend to like start doing that inner work of alignment, saying like, okay, I don't want to be, I hate throwing names out there. I don't want to be Grant Cardone, Ty Lopez, like showing the world my Lamborghini and just like posing in front of it. I should probably cut that out. I'm sorry. But at the same time, like I do want to create and not be afraid of creating in public. And I do want to do good work and share that with the world. Any great first steps or ideas there?
We have got to get out of the habit of saying that there are creative people and there are non-creative people in the world. We really do. I think just because, I went to art school, that's like, we focused on art. You have a communications background. We both do creative things. But I think that's also true about the CEO of a company. They're coming up with creative ways to solve problems. At the end of the day, we're all just trying to bring value to something. It's all the same. And it's just how we speak the language that we speak in order to provide that value back. And so I think from the first step, that for anybody who's interested in, figuring out who they are, bringing clarity to their brand or their vision, it's stop selling yourself short and saying, I can't do this. I'm not a creative person. Approach it with humility and say, at the same time, I don't know everything that I need to know. It's okay that I'm really close to this project, but maybe it might be a good idea to get some outside feedback. Ask a lot of questions. We live in a world where everybody thinks they know the answer and nobody wants to ask questions anymore. And you will gain so much more by asking questions and being okay not being an expert. And then, turn to those who have creative value or have value within a specific area, whether it be design or messaging or business strategy or numbers. There's people in all areas who have great insights, and ask them questions, get to know them, and figure out a way where you might be able to harmonize together instead of you trying to lift this whole burden yourself. I can tell you, like, we were doing our taxes yesterday, and she's like, "Where did you get this number? Did you even use a calculator here?" Yeah,
kind of. Try to.
But I'm not a math person. I'm not an ops guy. But we know what we know. I don't know if that really answered. You're probably going to say that didn't answer at all what he's asking.
No, I don't think. I'm not sure it's a question that has just an answer.
Yeah.
I think having humility, I think, was a big key for what you said. It's very easy when it's important to you and your heart and soul is in what you do to hold it so tightly. But you don't want to crush it. And I think that having enough humility to understand holding it loosely and finding people that you can trust to help share the burden of it is only going to make it better.
Well said. Yeah. Well done. Last final question. I'll let you both go. But when you think about the future of David Masters Group and your collective brand, do you both have a spot, an idea, just something that you'd like to see kind of show up in your brand in the next year or two? So looking to the future, and I know horizons sometimes get short, especially if you're living an integrated life with kids and all of that. But
yeah,
as you look to the future and you're like, yeah, that would be really cool to see that happen for us. What shows up for you?
This past year was really interesting. We were holding on to things. I know I was so tightly, and it was always this, like, we need to grow. We need to take on more clients. We need to hire people. And we tried some things out. And I think one thing we both realized is that there's not a one size fits all for every single business. And the thing that we were after from the beginning, let's hold it loose enough to say, like, life happens, but let's also say, like, that's the buffalo I'm going after. I'm going after that one. And that was integrated life. And that was that was making the most of our time with each other, with our kids, being able to serve the people around us, being able to do bar none exceptional work was always at the bare minimum. And I think, there's nothing wrong with larger agencies or teams. You don't hear me in that. But we did own the larger agency at one point, and I will say the one downside that we found with that was it was a lot of turn and burns. And the time that we got to spend with individual clients building those relationships was very short-lived. And it was always, we need to feed the machine. And so it became more about growing the business than allowing the business to produce fruit on its own. And I think for me, I don't know about you, and you can probably elaborate on this, I think where we would grow and change is becoming better at balancing and living the integrated life that we are, and taking on and being more challenged to take on more exciting projects, maybe bigger projects, but it doesn't necessarily need to be 10-fold, 50-fold more clients. I don't think our plan is changing where we need to take on 50 clients a year. I think it's, let's take on 4 to 6. Let's love on them. Let's show them exceptional work, and let's work with people who challenge us in new ways. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Want to be challenged. We get bored easy. We need to be challenged with projects that make us uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Good art should have problems,
I agree. I think that the boutique aspect of how we operate is very special, and I don't think either of us are willing to lose that. And I think when we partner with a client, we truly feel like we're partners and that we are as invested in their future as they are. So, if we did start like having long lists of clients, that would get lost because there's only so many hours in the day and only 2 of us. So I think maintaining that would be essential. I think, and you mentioned challenge projects. I think those like passion projects are always very exciting when you get to work with, maybe a legacy brand or something that is a very long, immersive process. Those are the most fun and have the most exciting results. So I think getting to do some of those would be really special, like the packaging type design, or doing the college was so special, or we had Wanderlust constantly. So something that would allow us to go and travel and immerse ourselves in order to something in a different culture even would be exciting. And I think for me, my secret hope is that we're still doing this when our kids are old enough to want to help and be a part of it too. Because, they've essentially grown up watching us and to some extent even helping. Like, we'd ask questions. We actually did one project early on where we just tried to get some ideas gave a prompt to our kids and let them draw and just see what they would come up with. And it kind of helped inspire some ideas. So, we've got very uniquely creative kids. And I think it would be really exciting if at some point they wanted to learn the tools of the trade, so to speak.
Yeah, I even think about the other day, our son came into the studio and he saw some initial exploration we were doing with typography and animals and this for one of these brands we're working on. And he said, why did you choose all those types of animals? They were all reptiles. Why only reptiles? And I had to stop and ponder for a second.
Why did I choose all reptiles? I don't know.
Well, it's like it challenged me to engage and see it from another outside perspective that I considered, and it kind of was more fodder to further the exploration and really continue leaving no stone unturned. I was like, oh, you're not seeing the way that I thought I would see it, or that other people would see it, or that even our focus group would see it. You're another voice, and allowing them to be that voice. This is so cool.
I love it. I think for if there just, for whatever reason happens to be a brand or a company that is like, I don't know necessarily if our visual or audible or any, way that we communicate, even our language is 100% on point. I could use some outside help if for whatever reason you might happen to be taking on, additional clients here or there. How would somebody actually end up connecting with your team, finding out, more and just seeing what you guys are up to?
Smoke signals.
Carrier pigeons, fax machines. Yeah.
We accept carrier pigeon.
Yeah.
You can visit our website, davidmastersgroup.com. davidmastersgroup.com. We both have LinkedIn profiles too. You can for sure connect with us on LinkedIn. I think that's the one social area where we are somewhat involved. I know this sounds crazy, but we're not huge. It's funny. We build social media strategy for people, or messaging strategy for that, but we don't necessarily spend a ton of time on it ourselves. But yeah, LinkedIn, but primarily our website, and then you could always email either of us. It's our name at davidmastersgroup.com. So David or Jennifer at davidmastersgroup.com. It'd be awesome to talk with anyone. Mm-hmm. And, I think the thing is, you said, like, if you are accepting new clients at the time, our cycles always change, and we always, those projects will close, and we'll be looking for new opportunities. And I think we're never going to not sit down and talk to somebody. We'll always make time to find a way to hear your story and to, see if it's something that excites us or that we know that we would be a good fit for. Yeah.
Well said, you guys. And our thanks to all of you for listening. If you're looking for a quick way to make our day, a review in iTunes or subscribing to this podcast would mean the world to us. Our thanks to Small Pond Productions for sponsoring. And this was The Pro Guide. Learn from leaders, change your life. See you, everybody.